This is Update News, weekly news and information program produced by Communication and Journalism Department students at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for Update News. I'm Mackenzie Miller.
And I'm Adam Gansky. Coming up on the show, the United States unemployment rate has gone up.
And President Barack Obama apologizes about the issues going on with the Obamacare website.
Plus, the Food and Drug Administration is attempting to phase out trans fats. But first, the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire is inaugurating its 8th Chancellor, James C. Schmidt, today in Davies Student Center.
Dr. Serving as Chancellor of the University on July 1st, Schmidt holds a doctorate in educational policy and administration from the University of Minnesota. He earned a master's degree in business administration from the University of St. Thomas and a bachelor's degree in political science from Winona State University.
Now that the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire has a new chancellor, the institution will be led by a man who says his motto is do your job, do it right, make a difference. Update News' Hannah Critchfield sat down with Chancellor James Schmidt to learn more about him.
Chancellor James Schmidt says he's always had two passions, students and political science. Schmidt grew up in a town of 1,000 in Houston, Minnesota. He says he's always been interested in politics and remembers talking about it around the dinner table growing up. In 3rd grade, Schmidt read in his local newspaper that his congressman was in the area.
I hadn't met him yet, and I thought, by goodness, it was high time. You know, I was a citizen. I ought to meet my congressman. So my mom wrote a note. The 3rd grade teacher laughed and thought, well, this is amusing. I got out of school at 9:30. So here's this 3rd grader walking in there because I wanted to shake my congressman's hand.
Schmidt admits being very active in high school and a little bit of an overachiever. When he went to Winona State for college, he remained the same. His freshman year, he was in student government and stood on the steps of the Minnesota Capitol protesting with 1,000 other students. At age 22, Schmidt was entrusted with administrating a multi-million-dollar financial aid program and lobbying for student interests. He was soon promoted to vice president of student affairs. Over the years, he has worked for 10 presidents of colleges and universities and said they encouraged him into administration. Before coming to the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, Schmidt served as the vice president of university advancement at his alma mater at Winona State for almost 15 years. Schmidt says the opening for a chancellor at UW-Eau Claire first caught his eye because it is a competitor of Winona State. He says he's always looked at competitors to learn from them. After looking at about 100 openings at different universities and listening to stories of alumni and students, Schmidt says he was confident Eau Claire was for him. Audrey Fessler, associate professor at UW-Eau Claire and search committee member, said she was confident in the selection.
Well, every job that Jim ever had was, for the vast first part of his career, had the word student in it. To my mind, that just betokens how representative of students and how student-centered, student-focused, student-oriented he is.
In Schmidt's free time, though he's always looking forward to going to work, he enjoys golfing, growing tomatoes, and spending time with his wife and 3 sons. For Update News with photographer Mackenzie Miller, I'm Hannah Critchfield.
There's good news on the job front in the U.S. economy. Around 200,000 jobs were added this October. This was an unexpected jump, especially during the month of the federal government shutdown. Employers added around 60,000 more jobs during the months of September and August than estimated. Reports show that businesses this fall show hiring improving. Although employers are happy about this unexpected burst of jobs, one financial specialist feels getting a better picture after November is over will be important.
Many Americans are losing their health care coverage due to Obamacare. Yesterday, President Barack Obama apologized to the American public in an interview with NBC for those who have lost their insurance plans, which he repeatedly pledged they would be able to keep. 3.5 million Americans have received cancellation notices from their insurance companies. These problems just add on to the troubles surrounding the rollout of the new health care law.
The Food and Drug Administration has determined trans fats are a threat to public health and has decided to phase them out. Trans fats, also known as hydrogenated oils, can contribute to heart disease and heart problems. The FDA announced Thursday that it has made a preparatory decision that trans fats will no longer fall in the safe foods category. After the trans fats are completely off the list, any company wanting to use them would need to petition for a regulation to approve it. But FDA says this will be very unlikely. The agency has yet to determine the exact timeline for eliminating them.
Wisconsin families who use the food stamp benefits program, Food Share, are seeing cuts in their benefits because the United States Senate passed the new Farm Bill. Updates Chelsea Emery has more on how these budget cuts will affect Eau Claire food stamp users.
The National Center on Budget and Policy Priorities says that almost 900,000 Wisconsin residents are seeing cuts in their food stamp benefits. In Eau Claire County, nearly 20,000 residents are seeing these cuts. Eau Claire County Employment and Economic Support Supervisor Jane Olson says food stamp users are beginning to see these changes.
We are hearing from customers who've gotten letters stating that the food share would be decreasing effective November. The reason for that decrease is the American Recovery Act funds was only set to be, I believe, around for 2 years, and that 2 years has come to an end.
Olson says the budget cuts are affecting people differently.
A single individual may be losing up to maybe $1, might be up to $11, depending on where they're at in the whole scheme of how much they're receiving. So it is making an impact on our families. They're not able to purchase some of the items that they were before.
The Eau Claire Human Services Department says most of the Chippewa Valley residents do not use food share. However, it means a lot to those people that do use the program.
To some of us, it might not matter, but when you're really counting pennies and pinching pennies, that $5 to $10 is a gallon of milk, a loaf of bread, your basics that can't be provided now or needs to be provided in another way.
Other ways to obtain low-cost or free food are food pantries and soup kitchens. Olson says the food share supervisors and workers in Eau Claire will continue to help food stamp users as much as they are able to. Reporting for Update News, I'm Chelsea Emery.
The strongest typhoon this year slammed into the Philippines this morning. Nearly 700,000 people were forced to evacuate their homes. The typhoon generated winds of 147 miles per hour with gusts up to 170 miles per hour. These winds are triggering landslides that are blocking roadways, uprooting trees, and ripping roofs off of houses. 4 people are dead at this time. This is the second major weather storm to hit the islands this month, with earlier in the month a 7.2 earthquake hit.
The city of Eau Claire is a popular area for human trafficking.
And a frac sand company may be coming to a place near you.
That's all coming up after the break. Stay with us. You're watching Update News.
Our patient load.
Human trafficking can be the abduction of men and women and children for various reasons, including sexual exploitation. It may seem like an overseas problem, but it's happening in our neighborhoods. In our next 2 newscasts, Update News will be doing a 2-part series to see what trafficking looks like in our community. Today, Update's UW-Eau talks with a victim of human trafficking and tells us how law enforcement is combating the problem.
While most kids her age spent their free time playing with friends, one little girl found herself in an inescapable cycle of abuse.
I was in kindergarten, so it was before I actually turned 5. I was acclimated into the child prostitution ring.
Voiles was living a nightmare.
You were taken and maybe tied to a bed and repeatedly raped. And a person can only take so much, and then they break you. And you're willing to do whatever they want. So.
Voiles says she was one of the lucky 1% of victims that make it out. According to statistics from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, almost 20% of all trafficking victims worldwide are children. The report also shows that while it's assumed trafficking means moving people across continents, most exploitation takes place close to home. And officials say it's happening right here in the Chippewa Valley.
In our high schools, we know that boyfriends are selling girlfriends to their friends for revenue, for drugs, for favors. We know that fathers are paying their daughters for the daughters to bring their friends home to their father for sex.
Law enforcement says this year alone, they've made nearly 20 arrests in Eau Claire City and County for crimes connected to human trafficking. They say because of our location, we're a prime target.
Voiles says Interstate I-94 acts as a pipeline to transport victims to and from major cities.
Almquist and Voiles are working with Eau Claire law enforcement to protect victims, especially children. This September, the Eau Claire Police Department conducted a sting using the website Backpage.com to catch individuals involved in child prostitution.
5 arrests were made after that sting alone.
When it comes to children, that in particular, and I think people can appreciate the sensitivities and the focus that we want to put on protecting children in general and children of our community.
And Detective Dahlgren says their work isn't done.
This isn't something that we're going to do for a while and then quit. Our efforts will continue.
Dahlgren asked the public if you hear anything that may involve human trafficking to contact the police right away.
They have something better to offer to people in their life than violence.
In Eau Claire, for Update News, I'm Jenna Rowe.
Next Friday, Update's Jenna Rowe tells us what local legislators are doing to aid law enforcement and help victims.
Frac sand mining is becoming more common in Wisconsin as silica sand is used in the production of domestic oil and natural gas. There is a proposed bill going through that state legislature that would no longer allow towns to regulate sand mining companies. Local schools are concerned with the air quality and are taking steps to improve it. Update News' Slade Tranel has more on the story.
The new bill would prevent towns from continuing to use licensing laws that allowed them to control mining operations. New Auburn, a town that has 4 frac sand companies nearby, has already seen the effects. Brian Henning, the New Auburn School District Administrator, says that the school has had to put in filters to keep out silica sand particles that are in the air. Henning says that his opinion on the bill is that the decision of mining regulations should be up to the people in the community.
Should Madison weigh in on a law or statute that would restrict local control, I would think that wouldn't be good for the people that live and reside in New Auburn.
Henning says that the talk of filters and air quality at the school began a couple of years ago when the sand plants came into town.
At that time, we engaged in a conversation with our HVAC company, and they more or less recommended to us that we could upgrade our filters.
He says that the school sends their filters to the Wisconsin Health Lab for testing, and they have seen an improvement in the amount of silica sand dust inside the school.
When we changed out filters again, and we changed them approximately every 6 months, we sent them in again and had them analyzed, and that 5% had reduced down to 1%.
The New Auburn School District is one of the first schools in the area that installed the filters. With the new bill up for proposal, Henning says that other school districts with processing companies are in contact with him, analyzing and looking at some of the air quality issues. For Update News, photographer Kelsey McMahon, I'm Slade Tranel.
Lice policies are loosening up at many schools around the country. Some school nurses are no longer sending kids home if they have lice in hopes of cutting down on missed classes and protecting students' privacy. Parents do not feel the same and are appalled that schools are allowing untreated kids to stay in school. Health experts say that even though lice are itchy, they don't spread disease and are not a health hazard.
With the announcement of the Wisconsin Attorney General J.B. Van Hollen not seeking a third term, the Democratic Dane County District Attorney Ishmael Ozane announced Thursday he would be running. Ozane attempted but was unsuccessful in stopping Governor Scott Walker's collective bargaining restrictions. Ozane will run against his fellow Democrat John Richards, while Republican Brad Schmiel has yet to make his announcement.
After the break, this weekend's weather will warm up a little bit.
And Twitter stock is soaring.
Stay tuned. You are watching Update News.
When it's time for lunch, a sandwich is a quick...
It looks like the winter weather is going away for the weekend. Tonight there is a 40% chance of rain, and it will be cloudy with a low of 36. There will also be strong wind gusts that could get as high as 25 miles per hour. Saturday will be breezy and partly sunny with a high around 44. Saturday night will be partly cloudy with a low of 27. Sunday is going to be mostly sunny with a high of 42.
Twitter made its debut Wednesday on the stock exchange. It sold 70 million shares at $26 each, bringing it $1.8 billion. It ended the day Thursday at $44 nightly cents a share, giving the company a total market value of $31 billion. However, the company is not expected to turn a profit until 2014, leaving its investors waiting.
Coming up after the break, the case of Dolphins offensive lineman Jonathan Martin gets more interesting each day.
Also, the Eau Claire men's hockey team begins its trek to defend their championship tonight.
Stay with us. You're watching Update News.
The Blue Gold men's hockey team is looking to repeat their national title run this season. Update News reporter Jessica Sharpie has more on this story.
The UW-Eau men's hockey team was the Division III national champion last year. Tonight, they start their season off with the unveiling of the title banner. But according to head coach Matt Lowen, last year is over.
Well, obviously, we just want to take it game by game. We lost 11 guys from our team, so we've got to get some new guys acclimated in our systems and what we're trying to accomplish. So we'll just take it one game by one game right now.
This year's team sees major changes. Goalie Brandon Stephenson, the Northern Collegiate Hockey Association Player of the Year and winningest goalie in school history, graduated this past spring. Offensively, the team lost 60% of their scoring. When players leave, new talent enters. Jack Callahan, a junior defenseman, says the key to success this year is becoming one unit.
We got a lot of skill. Hopefully we come together. Last year the team's been together, so this year it's a lot of new faces and hopefully we can gel early.
The Blue Goals are favored in preseason polls to win the Wisconsin Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, and Coach Lowen welcomes the champion.
We got a little bit of a bullseye on our shirt, so but last year at our last 10 games there, we were ranked pretty high, so I think the other teams were giving us their best game, and I think we'll see that all year this year.
The WIAC Conference no longer has an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. This means that every win matters for the Blue Gold men's hockey team. And according to Captain David Denellen, that means sweeping rival St. Norbert's.
Really, we're gonna be battling against them and everybody in their conference. We're gonna need help strength of schedule wise.
The Blue Gold men's ice hockey team kicks off their season tonight at Hobbs Arena against St. Olaf at 7 o'clock. For Update News with photographer Adam Gansky, I'm Jessica Sharpie.
The Green Bay Packers will be without their quarterback Aaron Rodgers for the first time since their Super Bowl season in 2010. Rodgers fractured his left collarbone Monday night against the Bears. The injury occurred early in the first quarter when he rolled to his right and was sacked by Bears defensive end Shane McClellan. The Packers QB says he is unsure how long the injury will sideline him for. Without Rodgers, the Packers will face the Eagles on Sunday at Lambeau Field. Kickoff is at noon. Adrian Peterson and the Vikings hosted the Redskins last night. In the first quarter, Peterson opens the scoring with an 18-yard touchdown run. In the third quarter, Peterson helps the Vikings regain the lead with a 1-yard touchdown run. The Vikings kept the lead for good and went on to win the game 34-27. More information is coming from the Miami Dolphin bullying issue. Attorney David Cornwell says the Miami Dolphins player, Jonathan Martin, harassment did not solely come from teammate Richie Incognito. Cornwell said Thursday that Martin has also physically attacked and emotionally abused. He says that Martin tried to befriend his teammates in hopes of ending the harassment the entire season. The NFL is further investigating the issue and if their teammates and organization mishandled the problem. The Dolphins play Tampa Bay on Monday, their first game since the scandal occurred. Number 5 Stanford hosted number 3 Oregon last night in a game with championship implications. Early in the second quarter, quarterback Kevin Hogan scrambled up the middle for an 11-yard touchdown, giving Stanford a 14-0 lead. With around 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, Stanford was in control until Oregon's Rodney Hardrick picks up a blocked field goal and returns it for a 65-yard touchdown. Oregon recovers the onside kick, and the ensuing drive, Oregon quarterback Marcus Mariota hits Farrell Brown for a 12-yard touchdown, cutting Stanford's lead to 6. Stanford's running back, Tyler Gaffney, runs out the clock on his way to an NCAA record with 45 rushes. It's a busy weekend for Blue Gold sports. Women's volleyball plays UW-Whitewater in their first game in the Wisconsin Intercollegiate Athletic Conference Championship at Stevens Point at 5 p.m. today. Men's ice hockey takes on St. Olaf in Minnesota at 7 p.m. On Saturday, they play St. John's in Minnesota at 7 p.m. And women's ice hockey faces off against St. Catherine in Minnesota at 7:30 p.m. and again on Saturday at 2 p.m. The UW-Eau football team suits up against UW-Oshkosh at 2 p.m. on Saturday. Also on Saturday, the men and women's swimming and diving teams compete against UW-La Crosse at 1 p.m. in McPhee. That's all for sports. Stay tuned for more Update News.
Tune in next week for more news, weather, and sports.
With Mackenzie Miller and Kelsey McMahon, I'm Adam Gansky. Have a great evening.
You have been watching Update News, a weekly news and information production of Communication and Journalism Department students at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire.